Really amazed what you can do with them, where they'll go. And I guess the little Japs weren't probably expecting us to do what we did with them. But yeah, I've done a few projects on this thing, so I thought I'll just run through them a little bit. I'll start off with I've just fitted a ARB Airlocker diff. They're not available, no locker diffs are available for them in Australia anyway that I know of. You can get a limited slip, but they're a little bit scarce. So I thought, no, I'm going to have a crack at putting one of these air lockers in it. So I'll run through what I had to do to accomplish that. Right, what we have in front of us here is the standard Subaru Diff. Independent shafts either side, which that's one of the shafts out, and an end cap, which is that little bit just there. I decided I would put a Toyota Hilux diff because they're available. You can optional air locker from ARB make one, but with that we had to of course make new shafts here. They're the standard end that goes onto the drive shaft. This end's the end that goes into the diff, and of course the Hilux diff's a lot larger than that, so new shafts had to be made accommodating from that to that, which were all lathed up and machined and hardened and by a wonderful man, Mike, who was so knowledgeable it's unbelievable. And of course then we had to make new end plates to accommodate the shaft with a support bearing. Alright, so we're going to have a look at a diff to give you an idea what we had to do with that, or what main thing I had to do to it. Okay, now what we're looking at here is what you call a pretty well conventional standard four-wheel drive diff. This is not a Toyota, of course. It's out of a Nissan, thanks to David's work vehicle. But anyway, it's a Nissan, but basically it's exactly the same. I needed to be using the centre, but of course these have got tubes which house the axles run from the wheel right through from there into the diff housing. So I couldn't have that, so these had to be cut off. So I had to cut them off the exact width that the air locker would fit, and I could put a shaft and a end plate, which I'll show you. So I had to cut both sides off and use virtually the centre only. So we'll go and have a look how that all, how that went together. I can assure you that thing you're looking at now didn't help me much. Okay, we're under the Subaru now, and virtually we're looking at that, and pretty well an identical looking diff than we just looked at. Now, where the difference being in I guess what you'd say the complicated stuff started, got difficult, was because where I'd cut them, where this had to be, these two aluminium blocks, pretty exact to get a width. So they cleared the actual locker in there, but keeping this as narrow as I could to try and keep it to the standard width. So in there, in virtually those little shafts that I was showing you earlier, had to be adapted to suit this joint off the axle to the diff housing, one that's inside in the crown wheel, or in the spider gears, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, so that in there's housing a bearing, a seal, and a new little shaft, one either side, which adapted in reasonably well. Now the diff worked out to be 25mm wider from here to there than a Subaru diff. So I accommodated that by using a standard shaft that side. The driver's side is a standard shaft, and on the passenger side, left hand side, I shortened the shaft. I don't know if you can see that there, virtually shortened just there, we used well anyway, a system where inserted some high-speed steel inside. But so that's the diff. Then was I offset the diff to 25mm rather than shorten 2 shafts, and that's the distance, because those holes, this is the standard, and these holes here are where the original diff still can be bolted back to, so that's how much it's off centre. It works out that the Toyota diff is actually about 110mm shorter, so I'll roll around that side and I'll show you what happened here. Now virtually what's happening here, the top mount hasn't really altered. I just made an adapter to suit, so the top mount is still same as original, and that all that meant was that I used a Toyota yoke this end and a new shaft. I made a new shaft, so you know, I think within probably an hour or so, or give me a couple of hours, I could probably pretty well bolt it back to standard, because the diff would only have to bolt back up to those 2 holes, one side of shaft, mount back up there, and the original tail shaft. The ground clearance is no different. Virtually, I'm quite happy how it all went in. Unless you're an enthusiast, you would not really know that, unless you noticed that it wasn't an aluminium plate on the back of the diff, I guess, in a bit of a different shape. A lot of people would not know. I put a disc brake rear end on it, which I got out of Andrew Jenke's car. I'm actually quite amazed that it's still working after seeing what that car did. Anyway, I guess there's always a surprise. Okay, these little hoons, you know, they're powered by a 1.8 boxer engine. I've got a Weber carby on this one. Thermo fans, but boy, there's a few around with some nice mean looking turbos and stuff. But anyway, I'll maybe that's my next project. I'll get round to here to what actually locks the diff. This is the ARB compressor, little motor compressor, solenoid switch, and the compression switch just cuts off over a certain pressure, and of course you've got your little connection to pump your tyres up. The blue line there that you can see runs around there, runs through and right down inside the chassis to the diff. So we'll go and have a bit of a squiz how she operates. Okay, let's go and have a bit of a squiz. Of course I've got no back seat in mine, I've got it so you can lift half of it up, and I use the underneath for all the storage, and I can lift to the centre line there, tilt it up so you can get in underneath. But we're going to have a look. Alright, now I thought, well, I'll put them somewhere reasonably handy, and it's only operated by 2 switches, of which are just here. These are the 2. You must turn your compressor on first. You always have to have your compressor on anyway, that's just part of it. Right, compressor's fired up, so then you want to lock it, and that's it, she's done. And then to knock it off, same thing, come to another spot, she's locked. It's off, and you can use that now if you want to pump tyres up or anything like that. It'd be handy, I guess. Alright, so we'll venturate back here for a minute, and then while I was sort of operating and all that sort of stuff, I thought, oh well, I got the wheels net off it, I actually there's me worker. I changed the stud pattern on the Subaru. not a lot of variety available in wheels, more or less Subaru or Peugeot, and just not a lot around you can choose from. So I thought, right, so I welded up virtually discs, plates, and lathed them down and restudded them to a pattern of a 4-stud, 14-inch or whatever you want to put 4-stud, but a lot more variety. So it gives you a lot more scope to play with. But she's a good little jigger. She's, yeah, and it's all gone together quite neat. It looks good, and spare wheel carriers on the back, which I've done. Roof racks, and yeah, and I've altered the inside to accommodate. Of course, I've got no back seat at all in it. I took that out, and I've got, like, this all lifts up underneath, so I can store a lot of stuff underneath. Gives me a lot of storage in here, a lot of storage. And I've got, like, so you can actually, don't worry about the shaking, look. So you can lift up a half, get your stuff out, whatever you want to do. So makes it a lot more room for camping, I can tell you. You can actually sleep back, the seats folded forward. Don't you just love these things? What about the sound? Hold on. I better go and crank this thing up so you can have a listen. Check this out. Is that a fine piece of machinery?